Patrick Johnston covers the Canucks for the Province and Postmedia. He joins us now.
How are you?
Well, I'm well. Matt, as a young lad in Ottawa, were Toyota dealers jumping? Was that a thing in Ottawa as well? Because whenever I think Pacific Toyota deals, I think of jumping in the air and red jackets.
The
right,
Toyota
right,
thing.
yeah.
That was the Toyota thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I suppose they were. Lots of jumping, lots of joy, lots of happiness.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a segue.
Unlike Canucks fans, yes.
Well, what do you mean? Stoked about the new coach, no?
Well, you listen, it's going to be an interesting year one way or another. It's never
Right.
boring. Never boring. Where's Ed Willis when you need him to write?
Honestly, Eddie should, with the amount of times that phrase has been used, Eddie, I hope Eddie, he's got a trademark.
License it.
You know, like
yeah, exactly.
Three-peat, Pat Riley. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So a week has gone by since the hiring of Adam Foote. Just as you simmered on it, as you've marinated in the news and thought about where this is all going, where's your mind at?
Well, I think a lot about the Bruce Hamilton quote that he gave to Coos on Monday. The head coach is controlling who's going to play. As an assistant, it's never your fault. It's the head coach's fault. Right. And Rick Tocchet weathered that well. That was something that he definitely had come to understand, and perhaps impressively so, because his previous head coaching job had been in a place where there was like one person asking him questions post-game. Whether Adam Foote is up for all this, I guess, is the big question. And it's not that, I mean, Rick Tocchet, I would like to shout out Rick Tocchet for going to bat for us, saying we are not bad to deal with, because there are people around the league who claim that we are. And that we ask fair questions and we want to know what's going on. And so just the sort of daily routine, and I used to wonder if Tocchet would get tired. And he even when he would talk to me, afterwards, he said, no. I appreciate you guys. You guys are trying to understand the story. You're trying to tell the story. You're trying to figure out what's going on. And that day in, day out aspect, over and above whatever performance or non-performance you're getting, is going to be, that itself is a challenge. That is part of the job. Adam Foote certainly loves hockey to a level that I think probably most of us have no concept of, because he wasn't just a player, he's been a hockey parent. That routine, how he's going to be able to deal with that day in, day out. How is that going to go for him? And it's a challenge. It's a challenge for anybody, and it's certainly going to be a challenge for a guy that doesn't, in the end, also not have a ton of head coaching experience.
Yeah, and which brings me to the temperament question. And we went through Coos' story yesterday when J-Pat was in here, right. And Bruce Hamilton very much basically shouldered all the blame there for everything that went wrong in Kelowna. But, I mean, there were stories about Adam losing his cool and wanting to get into physical altercations. Temperamentally, where are you at on this coach? Because I think clearly he has had to have made strides from Kelowna if he's going to be effective at the NHL level. And there's many who believe, the team's going to take on the personality of a head coach. So if you've got a guy ranting, raving, losing his you-know-what on the officials, on the opposition very often, that's not necessarily a great thing for the even keel of the bench. Where are you on Foote temperamentally?
Well, I touched on that. I mean, I talked to Tocchet after I was on with you last week following the Foote hiring. And so the story came out after. But that was something I mentioned. I said, listen, we've all heard these anecdotes about it was not an easy year, to put it kindly. And Rick didn't avoid it. He said, no, listen, that was something he definitely had to work on. And Tocchet said he's come a long way. A point that was made when I went back to, and I mentioned, we did talk about this one, Matt. But, I go back to that comment Ian Cole gave me about how Foote is a guy that calms the bench down. That guys get frustrated in game, and now it is Foote, in fact, who has played that role. And we all saw Rick Tocchet and how much I think we know he worked on learning how to calm yourself behind the bench. And he mentioned this in the story about, in the end, the players see it. If you lose your head, they are going to lose their head. And that is a hard thing to learn as a coach. But he does believe that Foote has got to where he needs to be. It is, but again, that's the day in, day out challenge. You can go and scream in your office all you want, then that's where you should go do it, right?
Easy to be calm as the assistant, though.
Yeah,
right?
it's easy to be calm as the assistant when you're dealing with all the everything, and the results are directly tied to your job, right?
Yeah.
Like as an assistant, you know if you do a decent job and you get good reviews, you're probably gonna get hired somewhere else, right? As a head coach, as a GM, if you don't get it done, the chances of coming back are rare. So yeah, listen, especially when you're a guy that does, again, not have a ton of experience.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you something from your story the other day on Tocchet leaving for Philadelphia.
Right.
I will read verbatim. Rutherford's contract still runs for 2 more years, but his son will graduate from high school next year, so his family dynamic will change at that point. He has vowed to fix what went wrong last season, but what if this keeps going sideways a year from now? What if he has concerns about Quinn Hughes' future? Dun, dun, dun.
It's a question.
Are you knowing something?
No,
that's
just well. I mean, that's just sitting back and looking at all the reasons why Rick Tocchet left, right? Like, and I think I've mentioned this before. Like, where is this going to be a year from now? Like, Jim Rutherford came to win, right? He is not a quitter. But this season went badly. He put it on himself. And you sit there, you go, well, I don't think ownership has any lack of faith in him. But as I've written elsewhere, among other things, this is year 4 now. Things start going sideways in year 4 in general under this regime, under this ownership. And I just sat back and I said, listen, like, I asked Rutherford. I mean, remember, I asked Rutherford at the exit meetings or whatever you call it. I said, Jim, where are you at now? Like, what's your... And he remember that long pause. He had to collect the answer. What's the answer going to be? And he has said, this is the task he's here. This is the task he's on. I do not expect that he would want to leave. But family, home life is not going to be the same a year from now. That's just a simple truth. And
But again,
he's 76 years old. He's 76 years old.
But guys, who cares?
And he's talked often about how much his family loves it here. In fact, I think they like it more than him.
But again, what's the worry here? Like, if you are worried, like everybody's worried about Quinn Hughes leaving. That is a spectacular player you cannot live without, or you cannot live the same without. Like, Jim Rutherford still has not accomplished anything here. If he leaves in a year's time because, amongst all things, this following year, this coming year doesn't go well, what's the worry if he left?
Well, that comes back to the stability thing I've talked about with Tocchet, and that was
been 5 years.
Yeah, but but like above him, who are you working for, right?
Yeah,
like that is the huge. That was a huge. I can tell you that was a huge question. It is not hard to understand that he would have looked and said, who is going to be my boss a year or 2 from now? In Philly, who your boss is going to be. It's going to be Keith Jones, right? Mm-hmm. There is a bit of a runway there. And there are questions to wonder about with Rutherford. Like I said, he is under contract for 2 more seasons. But he's also, in his late 70s. He also has his second era as a father is shifting. And... I don't think he wanted to move his son from school to school to school. In
reinvestigating the Tocchet departure, yes, it has some relevance for sure. I just mean going forward, I don't think Canucks fans have to worry about what if Jim Rutherford leaves in a year. Well, then he leaves.
But in the end,
it's Francesco with a GM under his thumb, and
I think they would probably try to replace.
You think? I don't think.
I mean, you're always going to find someone.
I think that's cost savings. I think that was a measure put in place when the franchise was really chaotic, and I would bet they don't want to pay for that.
But if it's an optimistic year and they make the playoffs, even if they're eliminated in the first round, if it's an optimistic year, I doubt Jim Rutherford leaves with a year left.
No, I doubt it as well. Listen, he has said, I want to fix this. I want to carry forward. And he has said, I want to win a Stanley Cup, right? Mm-hmm. It's not so much. I mean, I guess I sort of said, listen, just as something to think about, he has a family reason to stay.
Yes.
That reason will not be here in a year. I don't think in the end, the big factor is how the team performs, right? He's hired to do the job. He needs to do the job. He needs to get it done.
No, it's an important fact for context. I just don't think people need to worry about it.
Can I throw this bee in your bonnet?
Okay.
And first of all, Blake taught me this several years ago as he was marching towards a big fat round number. When you're 76, you're not in your late 70s. You're still your mid 70s.
Oh, yeah.
He's got another year or two before he's
4, 5,
Fair.
6, and
Fair.
7 are
Fair.
Yeah.
are all 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all of the mids. Yeah.
And Blake knows mid.
Yeah.
Nobody knows mid.
Fair.
Nobody's
Blake
more
Price.
mid than
Fair.
Blake. Wait, what?
The Toronto Maple Leafs have granted permission to the New York Islanders to speak with Brendan Shanahan.
Mm-hmm.
If the Leafs came calling for Jim Rutherford, Toronto guy, legendary, used to make the driving trips from Pittsburgh up to visit his mother in Toronto.
Yep.
What do you think? You think the Canucks would grant that or say, no, he's our guy? Hands off.
Could you imagine saying no to Jim Rutherford? I don't think I'd want to say no to Jim Rutherford.
But it goes back to, if your guy wants to leave, you're not going to hold back somebody, right?
I don't think so. Listen, if there's a chance to get bought out from a contract, I think this ownership group's on, get clear money in, money out. I think we know how they operate.
Yeah, well, especially this year. Like in other years, I wouldn't have been so sure. But, this year I look at it and go, they seem to be minding the purse strings a little more. Are they anxious to keep paying all these? Because it's a pretty big front office, right? For years, we talked about how thin the front office was, how Benning needed more help. And then Rutherford came in and hired everybody. I mean, everybody got an AGM. It was like Oprah. So I do wonder about that facet of it. Okay. Moving right along, because Jim was on radio last week and once again forecasting a trade before free agency when filling this top 2 center role. Patrick, if they have to trade a roster defenseman to secure that top 2 center, Roenick, one of the Petterssons, should they do that? And which one? Or should they just say, nope, the defense is the strength of our team. We're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. Hang up the phone.
Are you talking about someone like Elias Pettersson, like Junior Pettersson? Is that
Elias, Marcus has full no move on July 1st.
I don't think they're moving Marcus.
Trade protection until then. Yeah. And then there's Philip Roenick.
I don't think they're moving Marcus Roenick, Marcus. I don't think they're moving Marcus Pettersson. I don't think they're moving Philip Roenick. I think if they're going to move anything, it is one of those 2 young
But they also
guys.
love Elias Pettersson, though. So
They do, but if you're serious about having to get another center, I don't think there's an easy solution to any of this. It's going to be something, if they are really going to do that, it's got to be something drastic. There's just, the options are so challenging, and
cap wise too, right?
Cap wise and managing all that, and is there a way to? One of the other factors is there. They don't have a ton of cap space, but if you move someone like Teddy Bluger somehow, that's a couple more million, right? Like you give Ratu the job,
Yep. Yeah, you can get incremental.
There's incremental
progressive
bits that you can move, but you're right, Matt. I don't know how you do this without moving someone off your blue line. But I don't think they are likely to move Roenick, and I don't think they're likely to move Marcus Pettersson. I just don't. Or Tyler Myers.
Process of elimination, Patrick is trading D. Gotcha.
Well, if it's coming from the D, though. But no one wants to trade Connor Garland, but you might have to trade Connor Garland.
Yeah, but then who's playing on the wing, right? You start running out of guys.
But that's the least important
position. That's the
position
of weakness right now, though. You're going to further deplete from your weakest position of goals.
It's the least important position. Yeah. And you got young kids that are coming up with that prowess like Lackermacki. So
you have one.
Yeah.
You have one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's one.
What if, here's a crazy one. What if you, someone just threw
Cletus Carlson?
This is not someone who knows anything. This is a friend of mine said, would you consider, do you think the Leafs would consider trading the rights for Brock Besser for the rights for Mitch Marner? And I went, oh God.
No,
I don't think so either.
What about Marner, since you bring him up?
I have a hard time imagining him coming here. I get, you never say never, but I just have a hard time imagining that happening. And especially if you are looking to fill holes and you need to bring in a center, are you going to spend money on a winger?
But he's a creator from the wing, so you could put somebody less accomplished in the middle, and you still have a pretty good.
Yeah, I suppose
he's a center on the wing.
Yeah, if you are, if you are going to roll the dice and say Phil Petel has to be the guy and come hell or high water and somehow we're going to help him get through this, then yeah, sure. But I just that to me seems like such a risk to take. I just have a hard time imagining it.
It's just too big a piece of the cap pie too. Like he's going to be demanding in the low to mid teens of millions, and
Right.
I don't think the Canucks can do that given where they're at cap wise right now. If you delete OEL from your cap, you're in a different spot, obviously. And I have been looking ahead to that, PJ, of just like, maybe this is just grinding out your existence for 2 more years until the Canucks can, get another $3 million effectively.
I think fundamentally you have to operate on the assumption, and I've said this before, that you have 2 more years of Quinn Hughes. That you cannot bank on Quinn Hughes being here, and so therefore you have to go for it this year as best you can. And I just don't know. I don't think you're building a true contender, but
how do you even do that?
Last question. Are you still a member in good standing at the Mariloma Rugby Club in
Sure.
Kitsilano?
Well, no, I'm not a member, but I can show up and show my face for sure.
Oh, really? They'll let you in the clubhouse?
Yes.
Because I drive by the
I
clubhouse
can take you there
often.
anytime, Matt.
Well, that's my question. Because I drive by there often. The other day, drove by on just a beautiful sun-splashed day. My brother and I are looking at the fields and everything that's going on, and he goes, that clubhouse looks really cool. I go, I know. He's like,
Never been in there?
I'd like to have a pint in that clubhouse.
we're gonna
I'm
go.
like, me too.
Okay.
I said, I think I've got a connection there.
We'll go.
Okay.
You can just walk in anytime. Can I tell you one great story?
Well, I want to go with a member. I want to know.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Norm.
A quick story. I want to pay
From
tribute.
Cheers.
I want to pay tribute to someone. My friend Dan Fumano, my colleague Dan Fumano. His dad Gus passed away last year. Gus Fumano was one of these Vancouver legendary guys. You don't meet them anymore. He was a headhunter as a job, so his job was meeting people. And here we are. I was leaving. This was like 10, 12. It's whenever. This is like 15 years ago. It's whenever Chris Galis moved to Vancouver. And I'm standing outside. There had been a thing at the club. I was leaving. I had to go somewhere. Gus is there changing his boots because the old guys used to go for walks. And there's a rugby game, so he's putting on his boots to stand on the side of the field. I go over to say hello. And while we're chatting, Chris Galis, who is, this is how long ago it was. I read about him in the newspaper. Oh, here's the news host. He's walking home, I guess, from I think he'd been to the Kits gym. He's walking home. Gus starts yapping at him. And within about 5 minutes, I realized these two guys have never met each other before. But Chris is a journalist and Gus is a headhunter, and their jobs literally was to chat people up. So they're just having this gab fest. And about 10 minutes in, Gus goes, "Are you familiar with the Mariloma Club?" Because we knew that Chris was a rugby guy. And he goes, "Oh, well, I've heard about it." "Well, you ever been inside?" And he took him inside. And Chris joined the over 40s team that day.
Wow.
So shout out Gus Fumano, the late great Gus Fumano.
Hold on a second. I hope I hope you're not telling tales out of school here.
Go ask him.
Global's got a big investment in that face. Like, it
Go
can't
ask
get
him.
all beat up at the bottom
Well, no,
of
he
a
went and played.
rugby
It was the plate
scrum.
touch. It was the plate touch.
Oh,
Go
touch.
ask him.
Okay.
Well, no, he maybe played over
And
40.
of course,
games. I don't know.
Galis was at the gym. Have you
Can
seen
you
him?
imagine an
Yes.
Which way the gym
That's
at, bro?
that's how you make it on TV, fellas.
And he does fantastic work.
Anyway, go ask him. There's your
And the
Marilona
other thing is, he's not one of these stiff news presenters either. I've seen him work MC duties. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anyway, yes,
Okay, Mariloma Club, you, me, and a pint at some point
Yeah, we'll
here.
do it. All right.
Coming soon. Thank you.
See ya.